Good morning, my dear students. Welcome to the second session of 2DR. Let us brush up whatever we have seen in the session 1 of 2DR. The name of the chapter is 2DR, written in the exclamatory mark, means to say something which is too expensive. So what is expensive here? When we get into the chapter, we saw about a particular place called as Monaco. There were about 7,000 people who stayed in Monaco. Coming to the king, he had all sorts of luxuries that a king would have enjoyed in his life. And then, in order to look after himself, in order to look after his people, he was collecting tax. The tax that he was collecting was not sufficient. So for that, he gave permission to start up with the gambling game, the gaming house. Gaming house means to say, in Kannada, we say, Jujadudu. So, the king gave the permission for this gambling house, and people here came to play roulette. They enjoyed, they pulled the money, whether they win or lose. The keeper of the game enjoyed. He started gaining lot of money. From the profit that he used to get, the keeper of the game, he was giving a large sum to our king. The reason is, this sort of a gaming house did not exist in other places. So, this gaming house remained the monopoly of the business. So, we have seen up to here. Now let us get into the text further. So now, everyone who wants to gamble goes to Monaco. Whether they win or lose, the prince gains by it. You can't earn stone palaces by honest labor, as the proverb says. And the kinglet of Monaco knows it is a dirty business. But what is he to do? He has to live. And to draw a revenue from drink and from tobacco is also not a nice thing. So now, whoever who wanted to play, whoever who wanted to gamble were going to a place which was known as Monaco. Why? Because in the last class we've seen that, the German forbidden or they prohibited this gambling house because it did so much harm to the people. So now, whoever wanted to play gambling, they were going to Monaco. Here is a proverb. The proverb says that you can't earn stone palaces by honest labor. Here the king is saying that if you're too truthful, if you're too honest, you cannot earn anything in your life. You are supposed to go unethical. The proverb means to say we can earn money through unethical means. Legal way if you go, you may not earn so much. If you are going in the unethical way, you will earn lots and lots. They are least bothered whether you win or lose. The reason is they get a large sum as their profit. For them, their profit means everything. They are least bothered about anybody else. The kinglet of Monaco knows it is dirty business, but what is he to do? So king of Monaco is sure, he knows that it's a dirty business, he should not earn like that. But what else he can do? He has to live. And he has to draw revenue from drink and from tobacco is also not a nice thing. He knows that collecting a tax from drinks or the tobacco is not a good thing. But what else he can do? He has to survive. So for this survival, what was he doing? He was collecting tax. So he lives and reigns and rakes in the money and holds his court with all the ceremony of a real king. Means what? He's ruling and he's earning money and he's holding his court with all the ceremony that the real king would have done. He's not sacrificing anything. He's enjoying in his life. He has got all sorts of a privilege. He's got all sorts of a comforts in his life. It's not sacrificing anything. As we have already seen that, Leo Tolstoy sarcastically he's speaking about the power of the upper class people towards the society. Who is the one who is suffering here? It's the people who live in that place, not the king. King is enjoying. He has all sorts of a ceremony. He's enjoying his life. Though he knows that it is not good thing to earn money in this way. But what else he can do? He has to do. Because he has to survive. He has to look after his people. So what else he can do? So the best way that he thought was to start up this gaming house. He gave the permission. Remember, it's a monopoly of the business. He has his coronation, his levees, he rewards, sentences and pardoners, and he also has his reviews, councils, laws and courts of justice, just like other kings, only all on a small scale. What does it mean? He has his coronation. Coronation is nothing but it's a ceremony of crowning a king or a queen. So he has all the luxury. He has got all sorts of privileges in his life. He has the ceremony of coronation. He has his levees. He has his rewarders, the one who come and reward him, and the sentences, the judges, pardoners, and he has reviews, his counselors, law, court, justice. Everyone are there in this kingdom. But there's a condition. On a small scale. So, king is actually enjoying his life. He has everything that a king would have enjoyed. Now, it happened a few years ago that a murder was committed in this toy prince's domains. The people of that kingdom are peaceable, and such a thing had not happened before. So in this Monaco, people were considered to be as a peaceable people. They loved peace. There was no, jealous or the hatredness or the negative qualities was not there in Monaco till then. Something has happened right now. What is it? Now it happened a few years ago. Maybe some years ago, something has happened. What has happened here? A murder was committed. Someone has killed somebody. Some murderer has killed a person. Till then, Monaco was considered to be as peaceable. The one who loved peace. There was no fight. There was no chaos. Nothing. Absolutely, Monaco was considered to be as a peaceable, the one who loved peace. So, for the first time, a murder was committed. Now, what to do? There was a question mark. What should we do for the criminal? That was a question mark here. The judges assembled with much ceremony and tried the case in the most judicial manner. So, the judges, they assembled in the court, they assembled in the palace, and they tried it in a most judicial manner, how to solve the problem. What is the problem? A person is murdered. So, what decision are we supposed to take? So, they wanted to take up this in a judicial manner. They just wanted to take up decision against the criminal here. So in a judicial manner, they all went on. There were judges, prosecutors, and a juryman and barrister. They argued and judged, and at last they condemned the criminal to have his head cut off as the law directs. So now the judges assembled, prosecutors came in, that is, prosecutors mean a person, especially a public official who institutes legal proceedings against someone. Juryman, people serving on a jury. Barrister mean a person called as a bar and entitled to practice as an advocate, particularly in the High Court. So all of them gathered. They are just, arguing. They are just want to come up with a decision. So what is the topic? A criminal has murdered someone. So they just wanted to discuss with the things. They just wanted to come out with some kind of a conclusion. They have come up with a decision. All the judges, prosecutors, juryman, barrister, they've come to a conclusion. What is the conclusion according to them? Head cut off. What does it mean? Head cut off means death sentence. Death as a judgment to the criminal. So all of them have gathered after lots of arguing and judging. The decision has been made. They have to submit this to the prince. So what does the prince would do now? Let us see. So far so good. Next they submitted the sentence to the prince. The prince read the sentence and confirmed it. If the fellow must be executed, execute him. They just told prince that let the head be cut off. So the king looks to it and says that, okay, if you all feel that the person must be executed, execute him. So there's a problem and we have got a solution for it. The problem is he has committed a murder. The solution for this is death sentence. But there is a problem with this judgment. What is that problem? There was only one hitch in the matter, and that was that they had neither a guillotine for cutting heads off nor an executioner. The minister considered the matter and decided to address an inquiry to the French government, asking whether the French could lend them a machine and an expert to cut off the criminal's head. And if so, would the French kindly inform them what it would cost? So now, there was a hitch. It is nothing but a problem. What is the problem here? They have come up with the final decision, death sentence for the criminal. What problem could they expect, or what problem could we expect here? The problem over here is, in order to cut the head off, you need a machine. And the name of the machine is guillotine. So they need a machine and an expert to cut the head off. Can a lay person like me and you, can we cut the head off? Definitely no. So we need an expert who could cut the head off of the criminal. So they have a two problem here. They need a machine and an executioner to cut the head off. So that's the problem here. Executioner mean an official who carries out a sentence of death on a condemned person. So here they need two things. One is the machine, second one is the expert to continue with the cutting off the head. So they gathered again, the judge, prosecutors, juryman, barrister, everyone gathered again. They came up with a decision again, came up with a solution. The solution is, as we have already seen in the beginning of the chapter, near the borders of France and Italy. So the thought about the neighboring country, the first that came to their mind is to write a letter to the French government. for a kind of inquiry. What inquiry? Asking whether they had a machine and an expert. So they came up with this conclusion. Shall we write a letter? So they wanted to know whether the French government had a machine and an expert. If so, if they had, what would have been the cost? So they sent the letter. A week later, a reply came. A machine and an expert could be supplied and the cost would be 16,000 francs. This was laid before the king. So now, first they wrote the letter to the French government. So now, the French government replied. What was the reply? They said they are going to provide the machine and an expert. The cost would be 16,000 francs. So they took the matter again to the prince, because who is the person who comes to the final conclusion? It's the king. The advisors are there to give advices, but the one who finalizes the thing is one and only the king. So now he thought it over. 16,000 francs, the rich, is not worth the money, said he. Can't it be done somehow cheap? Why 16,000 francs is more than 2 francs a head on the whole population. The people won't stand it, and it may cause a riot. Riot means violence, disturbance of peace by a crowd. So the conclusion has been taken to the king. Looking at the cost, 16,000 francs, he says the rich is not worth so much. He's a criminal. Should we have to spend so much on him? And already you know that the king is collecting tax from the people. So here 16,000 francs means to say the total population is only 7,000 here. So it would be more than 2 francs per head. Do you think so that people would be quiet? Definitely no. They will create or they will raise their voice. So the king has a question mark. Could it be done in a cheaper way? So a council was called to consider what could be done. And it was decided to send a similar inquiry to the king of Italy. The French government is republican and had no proper respect for king. But the king of Italy was a brother monarch and might be induced to do the thing cheaper. So the letter was written and a prompt reply was received. So now, first they wrote a letter to the French government. The reply came, 16,000 francs. So it's more than 2 francs per head of the overall population there. They said they would send or they would provide a machine and an expert, but this was too expensive, so they did not accept with this offer. They did not agree with the French government. So again the council was called. They thought that they would write a letter to the king of Italy. The reason is the French government, as we have already seen here, is considered to be the republican, where they don't have any proper respect for the king. So they thought they would write a letter to the king of Italy. And another thing that we have to see here is the king of Italy was a brother monarch and might be induced. Induced is leading to do something, or they thought that the Italy people may reduce the cost. So they thought, and they wrote a letter to Italy whether it could be done in a cheaper way. The letter was sent. Reply came promptly. What was there in the reply? The Italian government wrote that they would have pleasure in supplying both a machine and an expert, and the whole cost would be 12,000 francs, including traveling expenses. So here they said only machine and an expert, and the cost was 16,000 francs. Coming to the brother monarchs, that is the Italy, they said they would provide machine, expert and the traveling expenses. And the cost was only 12,000 francs. So compared to the French, Italy was cheap. Or Italy, the cost of the guillotine machine and an expert was cheaper. So did they stick on to it? This was cheaper, but still it seems too much. The rascal was really not worth the money. It would still mean nearly 2 francs more per head on taxes. So King thought about it. Again, 12,000 francs means to say 2 francs more on the tax extra that they were supposed to pay. And he said that the rascal means to say that the criminal was not worth so much. Another council was called. They discussed and considered how it could be done with less expense. So the first one is rejected. Second one is also rejected. They called the council again. They discussed, could it be done in a cheaper way, less expensive? Let's see what happens next. Could not one of the soldiers perhaps be got to do it in a rough and a homely fashion? The general was called and was asked, can't you find us a soldier who could cut the man's head off? In war, they don't mind killing people. In fact, that is what they are trained for. So the people here, they gave a suggestion, shall we call the soldiers? And they can do it in a homely atmosphere, homely fashion. General was called, and as they called the general, they said that, can't you find us a soldier who could cut the man's head off? This is what you are being trained in the training. When you go for a training, this is what you are being taught, to cut the head off. So we'll see what the general would answer. So the general talked it over with the soldiers to see whether one of them would not undertake the job. But none of the soldiers would do it. No, they said, we don't know how to do it. It is not a thing we have been taught. So the general has gone to the soldiers and he's asking a question. Is there anyone who is ready to cut the head off? So the answer from the soldiers is no. They say, no, this is not what has been taught to us in the training center. What is the thing that has been taught to them? It's only when your life is at risk, they can kill. When they are in a war, if their life is at some sort of a risk, only then they can kill. So they say, no, this is not the thing which is being taught to us. So my dear students, I would stop my second session here. Let us continue in the next session. Can you please take down the questions? First one, which proverb does the writer mention to justify the dirty business of gambling? Second one, what unusual crime was committed in the kingdom of Monaco? How much did the French government expect for providing a machine and an expert? Who, according to the council, was a brother monarch? You're supposed to submit this answer within 9 p.m. Thank you.